Welcome back to Management Unlocked. I am really pleased that you are here. Big news, my book, Lead Like a Pro, launched recently and it hit Amazon #1 bestseller and Amazon #1 new release. So you can get your copy on Amazon. You can go to my website, GerardTrainingSolutions.com, and pick up a copy there. Please remember to support the show by subscribing, commenting, and sharing. Today, I am stoked to have Roger Martin with me. Roger, welcome to the show. Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you for having me. I am the CEO of ThriveMore Brands. ThriveMore Brands is a platform company that has franchise brands underneath it. So we have RockBox Fitness, which has 63 open locations, about 150 licenses awarded. Beem Light Sauna, which has 4 open locations, but will have over 100 locations within the next 19 to 20 months open. We have a nutrition company underneath that as well, and we're in talks to acquire yet another franchise concept that we'll bring to, it's an overseas concept that we're going to bring to America. So co-founder of the 2 brands that we have, and 25-year corporate guy that ended up dropping the mic on corporate America back in 2017 and have been an entrepreneur ever since.
That is amazing. So how many people work in ThriveMore Brands combined? Like how big is this company?
Yeah, great question. So we have 27 people in our home office here. And what's great about having a platform is that you can have shared services, meaning we have 3 brands, about to have 4. We only need 1 marketing department because we can have that work done by 1 department. We need 1 finance department. We need 1 HR department. So operationally, we have silos for each brand because operationally they're run differently. But from the shared service perspective, it allows us to really bring a lot of value to the franchisees and support them in a way that you really take a bigger brand to offer the kind of support that we have because we do have a platform. So we've got 27 people and they're kind of spread across everything from franchise development, again, marketing, operations, HR, finance, and a few executive roles.
Amazing. Right on. That's really clever. That's very creative. Right on.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's the way to grow today. Everything's hyper competitive. Margins are squeezed. So when you can have those shared services, you can punch above your weight, so to speak.
Yeah. Right. Cool. Well, thank you for that overview. I was curious. So great. Well, today you and I are going to chat about trust and incentives and rewards. So I have a few questions for you, and we'll veer around, as we chat, and we'll kind of dig deep on a few things.
Yeah.
Cool. So my first question is about imposter syndrome. Now, by now, everybody listening has heard of imposter syndrome. I would guess that most of us have imposter syndrome or have had it. So what are your tips to overcome it? Because I've heard from lots of different people about imposter syndrome. I have had a bad case of it when I worked at Apple. That's a scary place to work if you're a little insecure. So what are your tips for overcoming imposter syndrome?
If you don't have imposter syndrome, you're probably not growing, right? Like you're not growing as a professional or even as a human being. My son is 20 years old and I have a 22-year-old daughter, 20-year-old son, and my son is out in Los Angeles pursuing a music career. And it's funny, I'm glad you brought this up because just recently he said, "Dad, I have imposter syndrome. I'm trying to make it in the music business out here and I'm hanging around all these people that already, have millions of subscribers and their music's being played on the radio and, I'm just trying to make it." And I said, "That's good. That means you're hanging around the people that you're trying to be like, and you should feel uncomfortable because if you're comfortable, then you're not growing." So I would caveat, I share that because that's important for people to know that it's okay to feel like, wow, I'm in over my head. Maybe I don't belong. I'm a fake. Everybody's going to find me out. Know that every single person on the planet that is growing, that is trying a new role, they're either becoming a manager for the first time, a leader for the first time. Maybe they're stepping into that CEO role for the first time because, you at some point it's your first day. In any job, it's your first day. And, maybe you're starting a business on your own and you're not sure if your skills are really worth what you want to charge for them, which by the way, they always are. You're going to feel that way. And I would say that there's probably not I guess as I've gotten older, a little wiser, a little more, a lot more gray hair now, I don't have it as much as I used to, but man, first 20 years of my career, all the time, who am I to be telling these people what to do? Who am I to be giving, direction? Who am I to be setting strategy that affects, in some positions I had hundreds or at some point thousands of jobs. It's because somebody has to walk in those shoes. So why not you? Somebody has to walk in those shoes. So why not you? And we always think it should be somebody else. No, it should be you. But feel confident going into it that you are not feeling any different, any more inadequate than the next guy or gal that would step into that role. And I'm sure if I took over a company, with 5,000 employees, or I stepped into a role in Apple, I'd be intimidated as well. And I would go right back into that feeling of imposter syndrome because it would be very, very new for me. I've been doing what I'm doing for a while, so you get comfortable with that. But any new role, you're going to feel that way. And man, I would encourage your listeners to step towards that. Don't run from that. It's like anxiety, right? If you try to run from your anxiety, it gets worse. You need to step into it and say, okay, why am I anxious? What is the worst that could go wrong here? And imposter syndrome is the same way. It's okay. What do I have a fear of being found out about? Well, maybe it's, and I don't know as much about marketing as I'm supposed to. Okay. Now you know what your goal is. Go buy every marketing book you can find, listen to every marketing podcast you can listen to, and understand that you will get there. But yeah, you're going to feel a little inadequate till you get there, which is absolutely normal. And there's not a CEO, a leader, a president of a country that hasn't felt that way. And yeah, I can go on forever about that because I believe that, people sell themselves short in their own brain and have this crazy conversation, because I've had it in my own head that, can drive you nuts, but it's so expected. And if you don't ever feel it, man, are you really growing? Are you really stepping outside of your comfort zone?
I love that. I absolutely love the way you frame that. I had a touch of it today. I'm looking at rebranding a slide deck for a client, and my designer came back and said, "Oh, well, this is going to take several hours to do." And I did the math in my head, and I'm like, I can't charge them for that. Like, they're not going to pay for that. And it took me a couple of minutes to go through it, and it's like, well, wait a minute. What value are you providing by doing this for them and providing them with an excellent service and an excellent product? What are they getting? They're probably getting more than their money's worth.
Yep.
So relax.
Yeah.
So it happens all the time.
Yeah. And
over
just
little things.
Absolutely. And it cycles in and out. And I believe that if the listeners can embrace that, and it's not comfortable. I'm not saying that you should be super comfortable in that, because we're not when we're anxious, but just embrace the fact that it's normal, which means you're okay. And other people that are standing right next to you may be feeling the exact same way.
Yeah, that's a great message. I appreciate that. So I personally appreciate it. I know my listeners will appreciate it, and just feeling like, okay, you know what? That's just a sign that you're growing. It's like muscles when you work out in the gym and they hurt a little bit. Your muscles are growing. You're getting stronger. You're getting better. You're getting fitter.
Great example. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, moving on, let's move into interviewing. So interviewing is something that's important for all businesses, large and small. My favorite flavor of interviewing is behavioral interviewing, but I want to see what you think about competency-selective interviewing tactics and how that contrasts with just using your gut feeling.
Great question. And, I would liken behavioral interviewing with competency selection interviewing. So, same process, a different name, and you are talking to the world's biggest fan of that process. I mandate that my entire team here use competency selection interviewing. We have identified the traits, and for people that aren't super familiar with that, competency selection interviewing, you are interviewing for traits and characteristics of a person and behaviors that they have demonstrated in the past, not experience. And it's funny, I made a social media post on this, and it got a lot of attention because I think so often as an interviewing manager, we're looking for people with experience, and I can't go wrong if I hire somebody with experience. Well, it could be the same year of experience, just duplicated 10 years in a row. So they really only have 1 year of experience. You're having to pay for 10 years, on their resume, but they got 1 year of experience. What we want to find when you're interviewing somebody is you want to find, did they demonstrate the behaviors that you're looking for in the role that you're hiring for in a previous role? And so many, I don't know why this isn't taught in colleges, why it's not taught in business schools and even high school, but we don't teach people how to interview. Sometimes there are courses on how to be an interviewee, but never how to actually interview unless you go, pay for it and find it on your own. And it's such an important skill because that's how you build a team. So I am huge on one, identifying the traits. So if there's a set process to this, a framework, it's identifying the traits that you're looking for. So let's talk about that. That'd be like maybe for a sales role, innovative problem solving, persuasion and influence, teamwork and collaboration, because a salesperson never sells on their own. There's always a team involved. Collaborative communication, whatever that may be. You're going to have in your role these specific traits. Then you have an interview guide that is going to have them give examples of how they've done that in the past and demonstrate that behavior. And of course, you don't say, tell me about a time that you were innovative and solved a problem, because that's going to give them, it's going to lead them to the answer. But just by asking these open-ended questions and then asking deeper, well, tell me more about that. Well, then what happened? Well, what did he say? How did you respond? And why were you thinking that? They'll open up and share that, did they really do what they were saying that they've accomplished? Or are they kind of fabricating the story? People that have granular details, they were actually there. They did it. They were driving the process. When things are generalized and they glaze over things, or they can't fill in all the details, they can't tell you what color shirt the guy was wearing, or that the woman was drinking a coffee, because they weren't there. That this is fabricated, and not that people are fabricating all their interviews, but it's just when you start to dig deep, you realize maybe they were on the team that accomplished this, but they weren't really driving that team. They really weren't driving that process. They were just on the team. And they're kind of on the ship, but not driving the ship. So competency selection interviewing is going to really root out that very, very quickly. And you want to hire for traits, not experience. If somebody has those traits and the experience and the wisdom that comes with experience, that's great, home run. But give me somebody with the traits, because you can't teach hard work or work ethic. You can't teach empathy. These are very, I shouldn't say you can't. They're very challenging. And I think in that post I made, I said, you can't put in what God left out. So if I'm hiring a 35-year-old woman, I'm probably not going to change her a lot. I can teach her skills. Selling's a skill, management's a skill, leadership's a skill, but I can't teach her how to have more empathy. I can't. I don't have the skills that, I can't teach her how to have a better work ethic. Those are innate qualities and traits. And I want to look, there's 7 billion people on this planet. I'm sure I can find somebody in my local area that has those traits. I don't have to settle for less than that.
Yeah, I think that we're on the same page with the mechanism of behavioral interviewing. I would push back just a little bit on not being able to teach empathy, because I think it is something that you can learn. It's not easy, like you said. It's not as easy as learning how to interview, which can be learned fairly quickly. I can teach it in 2 hours. But empathy is one of those things that, if you're not naturally empathetic, you can put yourself in situations to expose yourself to more and more so that you start to walk in other people's shoes. But it has to be very intentional, and you've got to be patient. You can't force it.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. And the person, they got to want to change, right? They have to want to have that behavioral change for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And in today's world with AI just exploding, I think the thing that's going to differentiate us as managers or an AI, a bot managing us in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be our humanness. I don't think that AI is ever going to be able to out-human a human. And so I think that managers are going to need to really step up their humanity in order to get the best out of their teams. And I think you can interview and select for that.
Yeah. I just saw some quote. I love it. AI is not going to steal your job. A human being using AI is going to steal your job.
Yes.
Like AI is a tool. It's powerful. Embrace again. Let's embrace it. Let's walk toward it. But you're right that the human beings that are human beings and act like human beings that also harness the power of that tool, they'll be 50 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, my last formal question for you is about failure. Specifically, how does a manager deal with failure? Not necessarily that it's their fault, but it's their responsibility. Something happened on their team and the team did not deliver on time or did not deliver to spec, for example. Or maybe you want to answer it this way, where the manager actually did screw up and made a mistake. As a leader and as a manager, how do you handle that?
Yeah. You just spoke to our mantra here at ThriveMore Brands. It may not be my fault, but it's my responsibility. And that separates that whole victim mentality of, well, it's not my fault and somebody else should do that. And that's, can't blame me, which unfortunately is being championed, I think, in our society and a lot of parts of the world. That'll get you nowhere. And it's a destructive behavior. So when you replace that with, what, I don't know whose fault it is. And we can figure that out later. But right now we have an issue. Something failed, something broke, somebody failed. As the manager, I may have failed. I don't know. And we'll figure that out after we get this fixed. But right now it's my responsibility to get this back on track, to get this delivered, to get this prototype fixed, to, help that customer that's irate. And that mentality of taking full responsibility separates the winners from the losers. And I know that's a bold statement, but I believe that because I've watched that in my life and I've watched that in business, certainly watched that in politics, that those who will just step up and say, I'm going to own this. It's my responsibility. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's not. And if it is my fault, I take full ownership for that. I'll, whatever. It allows people to move so much faster, and they're moving at the speed of trust. They're moving at the speed of trust. And because you as a leader say, hey, I screwed up. I failed. I messed up. And I actually need your help to get this back on track. Will you help me get this back on track? You've just shown vulnerability to your team. And of course, it needs to be authentic and genuine, but you've shown vulnerability that your team realizes, wow, this person's human. It's okay to fail. And when you fail, you just then figure out how to fix it. My leader, my manager just demonstrated that in real life. And so we handle that here. Like, we've got a saying, if you're going to fail, then just hurry up and get it done. Like just, rush to failure so we can figure out what doesn't work. And then we'll start testing other things until we figure out what does work. But I on a podcast I have, I interviewed an ex-athlete who actually played with Michael Jordan of all people at UNC, and then later went on to coach Chapel Hill. And, he said something that was so profound. He's like, the reason there's so many former athletes that are great at business, and not every former athlete's great, but a lot of them are really good at business, is because they've learned to fail. Failure is part of sports. You're not going to make every shot. You're not going to make every throw or pass or kick. And you're not going to win every game. You're going to lose. You're going to fail. And that's expected. And you realize, okay, now it's time to go back to the wood shop, practice, figure out what we did wrong. Let's practice this and practice this and practice this till we, not only till we can not, till we get it right, but till we can't get it wrong. We keep practicing. And failure is part of the iteration process of getting better. And for some silly reason in business, especially in big companies, when you fail, you get put in a box and you're labeled. When instead you should be, if you accept the responsibility, you should be championed. This guy, this gal tried. They put everything into it and they figured out which way doesn't work. And now they quickly course corrected and we're going in a different direction. But my experience, 25 years in corporate America, when there was a failure, you just watch people step away from it, like distance themselves as fast as they could because it was a blame game. And the one thing I won't allow in our company is the blame game. Like, well, she didn't do that. Like that's not the point right now. The point is, how do we fix this? Then we can manage the person that maybe made a human error. Maybe they made a stupid decision. I mean, maybe it was a dumb decision. There are such things as dumb questions, dumb decisions. but that person then, are they willing to learn from that? And I just think we spend so much time on ascribing blame versus, okay, whatever, somebody made a mistake and we're going to deal with that. And obviously if somebody keeps making the same mistake, that's a hiring issue. If somebody continually makes mistakes that should be avoided, that's another issue too. But the average person wants to win. Your average employee wants to win. They're not trying to firebomb your business. The average person wants to go home and say, hey, honey, I had a great day at work today. I accomplished X. They're not trying to suck. They want to be good. So give them the opportunity to accept the responsibility, not get put in the penalty box, and get entrusted with another opportunity. And the people that are going to be your superstars, you're going to watch them take more risk, calculated risk, but more risk, and lift your business up because they're willing to put themselves out there. If you penalize that, you're going to get mediocre ideas that are, risk-free, but also very low reward, if not no reward.
And trusted. Yep. I love that. Yeah. And I think the whole idea of vulnerability in leadership is very important. My dad grew up in an era where you could not be vulnerable at work. You could not be wrong. You could not screw up. You couldn't show weakness. Yeah. And that kind of crossed over into the way he ran the house as well. So, in this generation, I'm trying really hard to let my kids know, you know what? It's okay for you to make a mistake. It's okay for me to make a mistake. It's not okay to keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over. But you know what? We're all going to fall down. We're all going to goof. So get up, dust yourself off, and give it a shot. Yep. And, my team is really, really seasoned. So it's very rare that they do make a mistake. But when they do, it's like, okay, so what are we going to do to fix it? And we just move on and we don't dwell on it. It helps a lot. It helps building trust in the team. I'm safe here. I'm psychologically safe. This is okay. This is an okay place for me to be. And so most of my team have been with me for years.
I love that. Yeah. I just have to dovetail on what you said about being a parent and just borrow your words, psychologically safe. The home should be obviously a physically safe, but a psychologically safe place for children. And when they feel that they're safe and that they can make mistakes and grow, and when dad yells at them, Lord knows I made a lot of mistakes as a parent, but I am proud that when I would literally sit one of my children or both of my kids down and say, I got really upset and I yelled at you. And I didn't ask for context. I don't even know what happened. I walked in from work and this was, so I apologize for the way I handled that. Tell me what happened. How do we end up here? Why was mom upset? And what was going on? Just saying as a parent, hey, look, I mishandled that. I mishandled that. So let me just own that. Now let's have a conversation about what's going on. And there may be some consequences for your actions. So I'm not saying you're getting out of jail free, but let's have a calm discussion around this. But I was wrong, by the way, I handled that. It just disarms the situation. So if any of your listeners are parents, you can practice your leadership skills that you're going to use at work to make a lot of money. You can practice those at home and have an even better, more harmonious home life at the same time. This all works together.
Yeah. The two most powerful words I know lately are, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And just shut up. Just, I'm sorry. Don't throw a but in there or anything else. Just, I'm sorry.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Well, let's turn the focus to you and talk a little bit about your company. So tell us more about what ThriveMore Brands is and what are the different franchise brands you have in that platform.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So RockBox Fitness was our first brand. I co-founded that back in 2017. That's a boxing for fitness studio. So think group fitness. You've got an instructor on a mic. Lights that change color, more of a nightclub feel, but you're boxing, hitting bags. We don't box each other, so nobody gets punched in the face at RockBox. But it's boxing and kickboxing, and then behind that, so picture that's half the studio where you're working out. Behind that is a full functional strength studio. So functional strength is just a fancy word for dumbbells, kettlebells, battle ropes, TRX, jump boxes, things that don't have moving parts, and you're literally building core strength and strength that you would use to pick up a box and put it over your head into a closet or something. It's not just doing bench press or leg press. Everything we have is built around how you'll need functional strength in your life and in your daily work. So boxing, kickboxing burns a ton of calories, a lot of fun, and gets you in great shape. And then the functional side, the other half of the workout, is going to be, lifting, pushing, pulling things. And real fun, all music's blaring. The instructor's very motivational and calling out the boxing combos and all that. So it's a very structured format, highly effective. And when we founded RockBox, our whole goal was to fix what's wrong with people quitting on their fitness plan. And that's because they get bored. They go to the same place and they get on the treadmill and then they go do a few machines and they go home and then they get bored of doing that and they quit, which doesn't help them. And so we really worked hard to make it a really fun, engaging program that you can do for a long, long time, never do the same workout twice, and build some life skills around self-defense and protecting yourself, but also, lose that stubborn fat and put on some lean muscle and make a lot of friends. It's community-based. So love that concept. And then the second concept that we started in 2021, started franchising in 2022, is called Beem Light Sauna. Beem is an infrared sauna studio. So let's say you finish your workout and you want to recover faster, or you have some excess weight you're trying to lose, you want to detox, get some of the impurities that are in our food and water supply out. You can go to Beem Light Sauna, buy membership, and then you have a private room with a private infrared sauna, full spectrum, near, mid, and far infrared sauna that you'll spend 40 minutes in. We have iPads that you can use while you're in there, so you can watch Netflix or listen to your podcast while you're in there and just relax and de-stress. But also, if you've seen anything in the lay press now, from athletes to celebrities to biohackers, infrared sauna is one of the best ways to recover, to get the toxins out of your body. Obviously, lower your stress level. It boosts your immune system. There's myriad benefits to it, and they've known that in the medical community for a long time. But it's now really coming into the lay press, and celebrities, of course, are starting to endorse using it, and athletes as well. So we have these studios are 1,500 square footprints, and you come in, you book through an app and on a membership basis, and you come in and everything's provided for you, towel service, everything. There's showers on site if you choose to shower afterwards. So a great brand, and it's taking off like a rocket. Beem Light Sauna is exceeding every expectation I had for that brand. And so we have a third franchise brand that I can't say yet because we're in the due diligence phase right now. We have a signed LOI, but super excited about that one too. And again, it's still in that health and wellness space, and that's where ThriveMore, which is really just a parent company. There's no product or anything for ThriveMore. It's a holding company for the brands, and we just want to focus on health and wellness and meet people where they're at. So if it's fitness, we want to meet people where they're bored with their regular routine. They're looking for something. They've tried diets. They've tried personal trainers, haven't gotten the results they want. RockBox helps them. And then people that are looking to recover, they're looking to improve their health, improve their skincare. This is where Beem Light Sauna comes in. So they're complementary. So what you'll find is we'll never have competing brands, but we will always have complementary brands where we go after the same avatar. So if somebody chooses to be a multi-unit, multi-brand owner with us, they could actually, buy franchise licenses for different brands that we have and operate those literally in the same strip mall if they chose to, because they complement each other, never compete.
Nice. That's that's like a puzzle. It's like an interlocking puzzle.
That's business, right? That's the interlocking puzzle of business. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Great. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. So thank you very much for being here, Roger. Definitely enjoyed our conversation. How can people find you if they want to follow up?
Yeah, great. Thank you. They can follow me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. That's just ROGER, no D in there. So Real Roger Martin on any of the socials. They can also go to ThriveMoreBrands.com. Just all put together, ThriveMore Brands, and that's going to show the brands that we have. If you have a concept, a single or 2 or 3 unit concept that you have that you want to franchise and you're exploring that, we'd love to talk to you about that if it's in the health and wellness space. And then on there we have other resources too about franchising and really just building your business. So Real Roger Martin or ThriveMore.com.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, comment, share, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Pick up my new book, Lead Like a Pro, The Essential Guide for New Managers, available on Amazon and my website, GerardTrainingsolutions.com. We will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.